Okay, so we're going to be diving into food sensitivities and leaky gut and how food sensitivities play a role in your symptoms. So, food sensitivities can show up as bloating, constipation, diarrhea, acne, headaches is a big one that I see, and it can also be mysterious symptoms like welts, rashes, hives, even muscle and joint pain, and they create overall inflammation. So, what are food sensitivities and how do we get them? So, food sensitivities come from leaky gut. Now, maybe you're familiar with this term, and if you're not, essentially it's just holes in the intestinal lining. So, what happens is our stomach has intestinal lining, and over time, there's little holes in that intestinal wall, and this is what's called leaky gut. It becomes leaky because food particles actually slip through those small little holes in the intestinal lining and they get into the bloodstream. So, for example, let's say that you eat an almond. A little tiny piece of that almond can slip through the holes in the intestinal lining, gets into the bloodstream. Now, the body is super smart. So, the body sees this little tiny piece of an almond as an invader or a threat. So, the body goes into attack mode to attack that little tiny piece of the almond. Now, this is essentially creating an autoimmune like response. The body is attacking something in the body. That's what it's supposed to do. The body is smart, but this is why you have a flare up of symptoms because your body is in attack mode. Also, when the body is in attack mode, it creates a lot of inflammation. Digestion will shut off. You won't sleep as well because the body is focusing on other tasks that it needs to prioritize. So, when you do a food sensitivity test, a lot of times what I see, if you do this through your doctor, they will run a food sensitivity test on you and you get all these foods back that you're sensitive to. Keep in mind, this does not mean you're allergic to them. An allergy is way different than a sensitivity. You would know if you're allergic to something, but you get this list back. You're sensitive to all these foods. A lot of times it's foods that you eat every single day or foods that you're eating a lot in your diet. And you may temporarily cut out those foods and start to feel a lot better because inflammation's going down. You're not having those autoimmune like reactions anymore. But this is where there's a missing piece to the puzzle. And I see this so much in my one on one practice with clients. If you do not seal the holes in the intestinal lining, if you do not seal and heal that leaky gut, those food sensitivities will remain your food sensitivities and you will become sensitive to more and more foods over time because the leakier the gut gets, the more food sensitivities that you will have. So it's actually two steps that you need to be addressing. You can do the food sensitivity test, and that can be very helpful, but you need to seal and heal that leaky gut. That is what I do with my one on ones. And once that leaky gut is sealed and healed, you should be able to tolerate those foods again. It's always a good idea to not eat the same thing every day because if you do have leaky gut, you want to keep your food on rotation just so you're not becoming reactive to it. But just in general, we want to always be rotating our food to get a wide variety of nutrients from all different colors and sources and different types of variety. But eating the same thing every day is a sure way that you are going to become sensitive to those foods if you have leaky gut. Leaky gut is very common. You can almost assume that you have it. There are tests if you want to test for it, but you get leaky gut over time from eating in a very stressed state. Digestion actually happens in our brain. So if you're eating standing up in the car, on the go, in front of a TV screen, or in front of your phone, your brain does not know that you're digesting. So digestion actually turns off and you cannot break down your food. And this means that you're not producing enough stomach acid to be able to break down your food. Stomach acid is produced when our body is in a very relaxed state. This is your parasympathetic state. I call this your rest and digest state. That's when your digestive enzymes and digestive juices really start flowing. And this is when digestion can happen optimally. If you're eating in a sympathetic state, which is a fight or flight state, and you're eating super fast, you're not chewing your food until it's an applesauce-like consistency, this is a lot more than a lot of us chew, then your body will not digest. Your body is actually in fight or flight and digestion is turned off. Then what happens is that food that you probably did not chew well enough because you probably took 5 minutes to scarf down your meal. Mealtime should take about 15 minutes or more if you're chewing properly. It just sits in your stomach and your stomach will stretch over time. Also, this allows for bad bacteria to ferment over the food. And then when the food is traveling through your intestines, you may have a slow transit time, which allows that bad bacteria to just sit there. This can cause SIBO, this can cause bloating, and a whole host of other issues in the long run. So, digestion is really, really important. If you are eating so much food and stretching out your stomach lining. So if you've ever eaten a huge meal and you feel super, super full, or maybe you've binged, or you're just eating too much that your stomach can handle, this can stretch out your intestinal lining as well. Too much caffeine, unfortunately, alcohol is a huge one. This really causes leaky gut. And just overall processed carbs and sugar are really going to cause leaky gut. So most of us have leaky gut. It's not this crazy thing, but that's why it's really important to seal and heal the intestinal lining, because most symptoms start with digestion and start with leaky gut. This right here is an MRT food sensitivity test. I run this with one-on-one clients. You can get this through me. And to get more information, you can visit rootcauseacneco.com. But basically, this test is super simple. You get your blood drawn at an outpatient lab, and then I will read the results back to you. And basically, you can see here, anything that's a yellow, you are sensitive to. Anything that's a red, you are highly reactive to. And then I don't know if you can see these small numbers, but basically anything that's a 1.6 or higher is considered a high green. And those foods should be on rotation every 3 to 4 days because they could potentially become yellows. So the yellows we're cutting out for 3 months. The reds, I recommend clients to cut out for 6 months. And again, those high greens, 1.6 or higher, just on rotation every 3 to 4 days. Now, sometimes these food sensitivities creep into products, toothpaste, things that we aren't aware of that we're getting excess in our diet and in our intake daily. So it's something to pay attention to. But with my practice, one of the main focuses is sealing that leaky gut. So in 3 months, we start testing in the yellows and we do a reintroduction protocol. You test one yellow at a time and then you wait 3 to 4 days. If you don't have a reaction, which would be like bloating, diarrhea, constipation, a headache, a breakout, then you can tolerate that food again. Most of my clients can because, again, we sealed that leaky gut. If you do have a reaction, I just recommend cutting that one out for a couple more weeks. And then the reds we try after 6 months, after more gut healing has happened, since we don't want the body to go back into that autoimmune-like response and create more inflammation. So I hope this makes sense about food sensitivity testing. I also do functional stool testing, and in my opinion, I would start there first. Sometimes food sensitivity testing can be a waste of money if you're not pairing it with a GI map stool test. I have other videos explaining that test, but it's going to tell us so much more about digestion, bacterial overgrowth. Do you have SIBO? Is your liver functioning properly? Are you filtering out excess estrogen? Is your pancreas doing okay? Are you producing enough enzymes to be able to break down your proteins, fats, and carbs? Your gallbladder, your immune system. It's really going to give me a full picture as far as your overall health, a lot more than just blood would or food sensitivity testing. So I definitely recommend starting there. Again, check out my other videos, but I offer both functional lab testing with my one-on-ones. Again, you can visit rootcauseacneco.com to learn more. And I focus on root cause acne, but I also have specialized in bloating and IBS for years. And again, I've worked with hundreds of clients. So this is my wheelhouse. If you have any questions, please DM me. I am more than happy to chat and happy to help.